Russian President Vladimir Putin held his end-of-the-year conference today where he had praised and also a warning for the United States. At the conference, Putin called the move to withdraw U.S. troops from Syria the right decision.
When I came into office, I promised to look at the world's challenges with open eyes and very fresh thinking. We cannot solve our problems by making the same failed assumptions and repeating the same failed strategies of the past. Old challenges demand new approaches. My announcement today marks the beginning of a new approach to conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. In 1995, Congress adopted the Jerusalem Embassy Act, urging the federal government to relocate the American embassy to Jerusalem and to recognize that that city, and so importantly, is Israel's capital. Last month, I also took an action endorsed unanimously by the U.S. Senate just months before. I recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
Trump announced to the world that the United States would finally recognize the truth, that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. He also declared that we would soon move our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and just 5 months later, we are standing on these grounds.
Jared Kushner, his big pet project was that 666 Fifth Avenue, that big office tower. He's going to tear it down, build something new, and he had to do a deal basically that gave it away.
President Trump's son-in-law has a 41-story size problem at 666 Fifth Avenue. Jared Kushner's company still holds half of the $1.2 billion mortgage and hasn't paid a cent.
666 Fifth Avenue, a prime piece of New York City's skyline, just 6 blocks from Central Park. Jared Kushner decided to make it his trophy in 2007.
This was the deal that put Jared on the map. I think every dynasty wants to own a piece of Manhattan.
To get the seller's attention, Kushner offered a big price, $1.8 billion, a record at the time. And the 26-year-old CEO of Kushner Companies borrowed aggressively to get the deal done.
I am also directing the State Department to begin preparation to move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
The reaction is still coming in tonight by the thousands and thousands, in fact, from our shocking report yesterday, where we detailed how Americans are now having to take what appears to be a loyalty oath to Israel if they want to keep their jobs. This is not an obscure law passed in one state. It's a law that's now passed, as you can see from the map behind me, a law that's now passed in 24 states. 13 more states have pending legislation on this. There's the map. It shows the states in red that we're talking about, the ones that have passed this law forcing their state workers to sign this agreement that they will not join any economic movements or boycotts against Israel if they know what's good for them, if they want to keep their jobs.
This is an opportunity to pursue our common goals of security, prosperity, and peace. And Jared, I welcome you here in that spirit. I know of your efforts, the President's efforts, and I look forward to working with you to achieve these common goals.
Thank you. The President sends his best regards, and it's an honor to be here with you.
Well, we just had a historic trip. The President was greeted here with fantastic warmth. He made an indelible impression on the people of Israel, and it's good to see you again. Please send him our warmest regards.
I definitely will.
of trying to figure out what leader is going to disappear tomorrow, who's rising in power based on just placements in public photos. But you're right, though, about kind of the sweet and sour relationship he's had with Macron. There are lots of complicated relationships in this one. For instance, where does the Saudi leader stand, given all the news cycle, who's standing by him?
Oh, yeah, look at that. Way off on the edge in the back.
I'm sure that was a total accident.
Right.
And there's also the questions of who's standing by Putin. And so there's, I imagine, a really complicated game of Tetris that went into figuring out how do these pieces fit together. In reality, I think that as you know, they end up looking at who's next to whom. That's not a bad flanking for the president. He's been working over Macron in some ways, and you're right that we have a very, very solid personal relationship with Shinzo Abe, and the U.S.-Japan alliance is strong, and that's really key to a lot of the strategic issues the president's dealing with at this summit.
You compare him to Vladimir Putin.
Speaking to France 24 last November, he criticized the way Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was consolidating power.
That is what I'm fearful of. Corruption is so huge in Saudi Arabia, so spread, and everybody is reachable by the stick of corruption. There is also a need to define what is corruption. Exploitation of power is corruption, and royals do exploit their position as royal to grant more favor from the government.
All right, meanwhile, a curious conversation between the French president and the Saudi leader caught on video. The conversation between the two men happening on the sidelines of the G20 summit. Emmanuel Macron reportedly telling Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, "I am worried," I'm quoting now, "I am worried," and, quote, "you never listen to me," end quote. It's important to note that we don't know the context of these comments.
Tonight, despite that stunning Senate condemnation of the Saudi Crown Prince for Jamal Khashoggi's murder, Mohammed bin Salman is still embraced by President Trump and his son-in-law Jared Kushner, who first advocated for the young Saudi leader and is still his chief White House defender.
I think our intelligence agencies are making their assessments.
Not true, the Republican Foreign Relations chairman telling NBC's Casey Hunt.
If he was before a jury, the Crown Prince, he would be convicted, in my opinion, in 30 minutes. Okay, I've never seen such compelling evidence in an intelligence briefing. Never.
And now outrage at the Saudis also prompting a rare Senate vote to end U.S. military support for the Saudi war in Yemen, a humanitarian catastrophe. 50,000 children have died from starvation already. The UN predicts 14 million people are at risk in what could become the worst famine in a century.
Saudi Arabia denies it ordered journalist Jamal Khashoggi to be killed. Officials say a fight broke out and he ended up dead. But tonight reports an advisor to the Saudi Crown Prince was on Skype with the killers giving orders. The advisor was fired last week. Turkey says Saudi Arabia brutally murdered Khashoggi and then bungled the cover-up.
U.S. intelligence officials have concluded that Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince was behind the journalist's killing.
Nobody's concluded. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to conclude that the Crown Prince did it. But I will say this, I don't know. I don't know. But whether he did or whether he didn't, he denies it vehemently. His father denies it, the king, vehemently. The CIA doesn't say they did it. They do point out certain things, and in pointing out those things, you can conclude that maybe he did or maybe he didn't.
Saudi Arabia is probably the second biggest oil producer. They've worked with us very well. We've kept oil prices down. If you want to see oil prices go to $150 a barrel, like, by the way, Russia would love to see that, all you have to do is break up our relationship with Saudi Arabia. can have multiple.
Undermine Secretary Mattis. That was the first sign that that things were really very tense. But Mattis's influence has waned in recent months. We have seen that. We've seen him spend less time with the president in the last few days to discuss the pullout of troops from Syria, as well as now we're learning just moments ago that the president is considering pulling out a significant number, thousands of U.S. troops from Afghanistan. I'm told that that will begin in January and that it will be more than 3,000 troops that will be coming out. There are about 15,000 on the ground there.
The Russian president also agreed with President Trump's assessment that the Islamic State has been defeated in Syria. There are approximately 2,000 American troops on the ground in Syria right now. Russia and the United States have observed an agreement that's enabled the two countries to avoid direct engagement between their forces there. But Putin also warned about the growing threat of nuclear war and said that the situation is being downplayed. This comes after President Trump announced earlier this year his intention to withdraw the U.S. from a Cold War-era nuclear arms treaty.